Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to my Certified High Performance Coaching Training Series in support of Dianne's CHPC Recertified Project 2017. This project is an online crowdfunding campaign hosted on Generosity by Indiegogo, and it's designed to help me raise the funds that I'll need to become recertified in Certified High Performance Coaching this June. Now, if you've missed any of the previous trainings, you can get some information and follow up on that at the link below, as well as some additional information on me, my work, what I do at my website, dmariethomas.com. And you can follow me on Facebook at Get Dianne CHPC Recertified 2017. As well as, of course, the link to the fundraising page on Generosity by Indiegogo is down below this video as well. So hopefully you will come check out what I've been up to and find out how my campaign is going, and hopefully I'll get your support. Now, as a part of the training series, as I mentioned before, the foundation of all of this is to try to get you familiar with the 5 pillars of high performance, which is clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence. And those are the foundational principles upon which certified high performance coaches such as myself build the awareness and the ability for high achievers such as yourself to get to higher levels of performance. And so each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I will be covering one of those pillars. Today's Monday, so it's Clarity Mondays, and we're just going to delve a little bit more into clarity. And I've had to be coming at this using myself as an example, and I figured I'd be ready to do that in the early days until everyone got familiar with me and familiar with this process. But I don't really like talking about myself too much, so it'd be great if I could get some feedback from you in terms of how you're finding these exercises. This is the second week that we're entering this part of it and actually asking you to accept the challenge of coming up with the 3 words, as we mentioned before. Those words being how you define yourself in terms of who you want to be in the world, how you're going to define the way that you are wanting to interact with other people, and then defining what success is for you in those 3 words and how it will help you get to more success, because we've all had some level of success in our lives. Now, as a part of this, I had mentioned as well that I created this talking computer head called Persimtra, and its acronym stands for Precision, Simplicity, and Transparency, which is what you want to live up to in your efforts to become more clear and more focused in your efforts. And so you'll be seeing that little icon pop up in my social media posts and whatnot as we move through the coming weeks to familiarize you with getting comfortable in finding those 3 words. And as I mentioned before as well, you may have to remind yourself throughout the day. If you get up in the morning, you decide these 3 words, what I want to represent as myself today. And you find those 3 words, but something may throw you off track, like last week I was talking about when I was getting ready for this campaign and how frazzled I was, which isn't my normal self, and how I want to show up in the world. But we all have those challenges throughout our day. And so if you set those words in your as a reminder, as an alarm, I guess is what I'm saying, in your phone to help to remind you, all right, well, I'm off a little bit. I need to get back on track. So that's what I do, and that's what I recommend you to do as well. We as high achievers need to have little hacks, I guess, high achievement hacks, and that's one that you can use to help you. So Persimtra, as I mentioned before, is going to be a prompt, and you'll be seeing that kind of pop up throughout my social media postings. Now, as I mentioned, this week we're going to explore a little bit more about my perspective of clarity and how I come to it. And particularly, we're going to look at the practice that I developed in terms of having those philosophies that I mentioned, lifelong learning, continuous improvement, and personal responsibility. So we're going to be looking at clarity through the lens of self and lifelong learning. Now, I was an okay student in school. I didn't love school and I didn't hate school. But I did find it to be at times a bit of a struggle, especially with math. And I came to that understanding pretty late. I was actually finishing up my 8th grade year when I was advised that I had problems with math. I had known that I did before, and my teacher kind of came up to me at the last day of school and said to me that they weren't going to recommend me to take any high school level math like algebra or trigonometry or whatever, which I thought was interesting because I wasn't failing the class, so it kind of puzzled me. So I ended up spending part of my 8th grade summer, that between 8th and 9th grade, in a college level, no credit math class. You know, the ones that you take when you don't get credit and you have to pay a whole bunch of money for. That still landed me though, because of course it's a crunch situation. What was the likelihood of me really being able to learn supposedly all this stuff that I needed to learn to get into a math class in, you know, a few weeks? So I did spend several more weeks after I got in, started my freshman year in a remedial math class until I tested out of that. And then by the time I tested out of that, it was kind of late to get into a standard high school math class. So I didn't get algebra in high school. And I think even if I probably could have done it, I would have probably been too scared, because by then I was mentally dissuaded because of what somebody told me I couldn't do, even though I didn't really think I had that problem. But, you know, when you're a young child and you accept a lot of what grown-ups say, which is why we have to be careful about what we say to our children and our young people in terms of making sure that they're able to stay clear. But saying all that to say, I finally got my college degree. I did go to college. It took me 4 tries to get through it, but I had to fight because I was fighting preconceived notions about something that didn't even exist and a fear that was unfounded. And I got through it in a way that led me to realize there wasn't anything really wrong with me. There's probably wrong with some level of expectation someone had of me, but I had to decide that I was capable enough to do this. And that's what kept me driving forward and working to move in a direction that was going to get me where I know I needed to be. You know, I also recognize that, you know, clarity can be hindsight 2020. And so a lot of times we have to be aware that, you know, we may have some assumptions about ourselves, whether good or bad, that put us in situations that we're not feeling as confident as we need to, and certainly not as clear as we need to be about where we need to go in our lives. I can remember certainly in terms of questioning my assumptions and what I was able to not do just some years ago, when I was very driven in trying to accomplish a lot of things and had decided that I was going to try to work a job, take care of my mom who was ill, and try to study to become a certified financial planner. Of course, that was an epic fail. Now, I never had anybody tell me that I couldn't do it, but as I mentioned, hindsight was 2020, and now I look back on it, it may have been something I might have reconsidered doing. One thing I certainly thought and decided to do and didn't reconsider, though, was learning how to skate a couple of years ago. Now, I was in a class, decided I was going to go and to the skating rink and take this 4-week class. And fortunately, there were a few other people in the class that were probably my age, or maybe a smidge older. So I didn't really feel self-conscious or nervous or anything, even though, of course, we were in the minority because these classes were on Saturdays. which is the busiest time, as anybody knows. And you have the youngest and most accomplished skaters whizzing by you. So it could be a bit intimidating. But I recognize I'm going to fall. I'm probably going to look a little awkward in the beginning. And I was okay with whatever looks I would get from that, because I was more focused on what the end product was going to be. I knew that I had to not be dissuaded from this. I knew I had to continue to practice, because that practice was going to make permanence, and that was going to help me master the art and science, perhaps even to some degree, of skating. Now, I don't know that you necessarily say I've learned to skate, but I feel much more comfortable on skates than I had certainly before I tried to do it again, because it was a decision that I had made. So, from my perspective, clarity is something that you come to over time after you've had some learning experiences, some bumps in the road, some falls. It helps you have a perspective, in my case, certainly, of the 3 words: that I was capable of doing the things that I wanted to do, that I shouldn't assume I could or could not do anything, that I really needed to check my own assumptions and mine my mind to find out where I may not feel as comfortable as I should with things. And it's certainly then to realize that to master anything, I had to continue to practice it. So, high achievers, that's why I bring this challenge to you today. Now, I know that last week we spoke about the challenge for last week, and hopefully you've at least thought about some of that. And I know when I look back at this, maybe we can do a little bit of a tweaking of adjustment, and maybe it's not 3 words for each category, whether it's how you see your best self, how you interact with other people, and what you think will make you successful. Maybe you can just come up with 1 word for each of those categories, if that's possible, like I described today for myself. And maybe you can mention at least 1 of them in the comments section below, or on my Facebook page at Get Dianne CHPC Recertified 2017. As I mentioned before, I think it'd be really great if we could develop a habit of thinking about concepts like this, because as high achievers, it doesn't just happen that we get the things we want in life. We have to plan, we have to develop life hacks, we have to give ourselves a fighting chance to get to the next level. So hopefully you'll accept this challenge and share what comes up for you below. Now, as well, I want to know how these trainings are fitting into your life. Hopefully you're finding them valuable. I've gone down this road of endeavoring to do this because I want you to get familiar with what I do and why it's so important to me. So please share that as well if there's any ways we can make these videos more engaging. I would love to know that as well, so I can make them more value to you. All right, so until next time, happy Clarity Monday, and thank you so much for participating.